Now, my next guest is the best-selling author and former deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. Will you please welcome Jeffrey Archer? Jeffrey Archer, do take a seat. Now, I mentioned your former position, but your political career, is it sort of on the up again now? You were speaking at Bournemouth last week and got a rousing reception, we understand.
Yes.
I mean, do you still have ambitions in that direction, to be Prime Minister or anything like that?
I still enjoy politics more than anything else, certainly more than writing, and it's still something I want to do.
Yes. But your speech mainly concerned was saying, you know, we should all back the Prime Minister and not get out of line, and MPs shouldn't be arguing. There's not much substance there. I never get really a feeling of what you would want to do if you were Prime Minister.
Well, in that particular speech, I mean, it was aimed at a handful of people who appear regularly on television and seem to spend the time running the party down. So it was aimed particularly at the party conference.
Yes. But I've noticed you've said in quotes and things that you weren't really a conviction politician when you were an MP. I mean, have you got any convictions of that sort now?
I think when one grows older, you're more likely to develop those convictions. Certainly, as a young man, I knew what I wanted to achieve, but of course you have no power, you have no influence, you can achieve very little.
Yes, you were an athlete in your younger days, weren't you? Sorry, is that a controversial question? You ran for Oxford, ran for Britain, I think, once?
Yeah, I actually met someone at one of the by-elections the other day who actually could remember me running, and you need a very good memory for that.
I wonder if that sort of summed up your approach to life, that in athletics, in a sprint race, the idea is to get from A to B as quickly as possible, beating everybody else, with no other reason for it than doing that. Is that how you saw politics as well?
No. And the Conservative Party has been in power for 11 years now, so it's been a very long race.
Yes.
No, I think in almost everything I've done in life...
A marathon, really. A marathon. Yeah. Or an endurance or something.
No, I think almost everything I've done since it is summed down to hard work. And writing itself takes a tremendous time. People actually imagine that writing a book can be... I mean, I've actually heard people say, oh, do it in a weekend. Yes. And it takes 2 years to write a novel. And
one of your novels.
One of mine.
Yes.
Well... and I would greatly admire someone who could write a novel quickly. I mean, they take about... The latest one has taken 19 drafts, every bit handwritten.
Yes.
And it isn't easy.
Which draft does the public get?
About the 19th, 20th.
Right.
Yeah. You're really catching on tonight, Clive.
Yes.
Very fast.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You're a critic as well. There's no beginning to your talents. Now, you've moved on to your writing. Now, that's what you're famous for.
All the old jokes are the best ones. I've got to admit that.
Yeah, yes, I've read your books. Now, actually, that's not entirely true. I've read a couple of them for the purpose of this interview, and I've heard people being critical of your books in the past, and I'd have to say that they're not as bad as people say. Not quite, but.
Well, that's something I have common with your show.
So it's charm that got you where it did. But you are sort of like the Thatcherite man, the epitome of someone who's raised himself from on his bootstraps, made a fortune out of, in your case, novel writing. Is that sort of a blueprint you think that everyone else could follow?
No, certainly not. Though I don't think there's any harm, though you mimic it and knock it. There's no harm in wanting to achieve something.
No, I'm not mimicking it. I don't even get close to it, and I haven't knocked anything for ages. But now, in your writing, there's been a little bit of controversy over some short stories that you wrote, A Twist in the Tale. There was a lady who suggested that you'd stolen one of the plots from her, or not stolen, but lifted it. Are these stories plots that you've had to go around and research around the world?
Well, what happens is often people think they've got a novel in them, and they say to you, look, if you wrote my life story, it would be one of the world's bestsellers. And quite often they tell you a short story, which is very good indeed, because it applies to them and them alone, something that's actually happened to them. And yes, I would have said of the last set of short stories, 11 of the 12 were given to me by people who literally have had an experience of some sort and don't want to write it themselves, but feel it's worth recording, and they do tell you. 99 times out of 100, it's some form of story you've heard before.
But I'm
just
talking about
occasionally
Kathleen Burnett, who said that you awarded her a prize in a short story competition, and then there it was, the story appeared in your book with...
Yes, you see, that's the sort of ill-informed, stupid remark you do make from time to time.
Yes.
As I said...
Well, it's not so much a remark as a question.
If you'd let me finish.
Yes, absolutely.
Having asked the question.
Yes, yeah. I'm just responding to the insults. But,
wasn't meant to be an insult.
No, no. That's the closest you get to a compliment.
If you get... if you would say of Cain and Abel, the story of two men born on the same day, one with everything, one with nothing, and they both meet once in their life, and you come back later with a story of, say, 700 or 800 pages, which has taken you 2 years to do, and someone says, oh, I told him that idea, quite a good idea, wasn't it? I mean, you can say it of almost any story. And I must say, a lot of authors wrote and said one of the problems they suffer is that when they write, they often fear that someone may have told them something or some reaction may have happened, and then they get blamed for it. I know in the first story I wrote in that set of short stories, The Perfect Murder, I felt sure I would get 100 letters saying, oh, this has been written by someone else before, because you think it's original, and 99 times out of 100, it's very hard actually to be original. You write something and you feel sure that I mean, Romeo and Juliet's the classic example. There have been a million love stories ever since, and they're all based in some way on Romeo and Juliet, and to be genuinely original is very hard indeed.
Yes, but I was asking about that specific one where she'd won a short story prize and has complained about it since. I just wondered if what...
Yeah, she completed the story, which is a very good story. I agree, because it's only a simple idea, and it's a pity to say the idea, but a simple idea...
Well, it would give it away, so I'm not forcing you to give it away.
Simple idea, and I did say, would you mind if I did my version of it, and she made no objection at all.
But she noticed afterwards. And,
she certainly did.
And does she remember it like that, do you think?
Well, her story was, I think, 3 to 4 pages, but it's the idea that matters. I mean, now I will tell you what the idea is. It's because you've taken this so far. It's the story of...
As me being brutal.
It's a story where you imagine when you're watching or you're reading the story that you're in fact involved with a man and a woman, and their involvement through a period of about a week, and you discover at the end that the person the woman isn't a woman, but an animal.
Yes.
And how you word it all the way through should give small clues.
Yes.
And then you get it on the last line.
Yes. Like the clues like I was having kittens or something like that. Well, anyway, that's. I think you've explained how that story came about. I think we've run out of time now, but thank you very much for joining us, Geoffrey Archer.
Thank you very much indeed.
And a last